Hey everybody, welcome to Crazy Tech Lab, and today I've got a super cool video for you because we are looking at Thermaltake's Tower 100, which is its brand new Mini-ITX tower case. Keep on saying tower. And it retails for $99 or £89 here in the UK. And Thermaltake has a pretty good history with Mini-ITX cases. They have invariably been huge, but we have had some great examples from various cubes that it's made, and also one of my favorites is the Core P1, which is its wall-mountable sort of open-air chassis. Really like that case. And one thing you can never really discount Thermaltake for is kind of trying something different. It has come up with some different designs. There have been a few questionable examples in the past, but generally it doesn't do things too badly. So Mini-ITX, obviously a massive fan here of a small form factor and Mini-ITX, and I'm very keen to take a look at it, see what we can fit inside, and whether Thermaltake has dropped the ball. Hopefully it hasn't. Hopefully we've got a solid case here. And for £89, $99, that's actually pretty reasonable for any case, especially one that's got plenty of tempered glass. It's got tempered glass all the way around the three panels there, and you get a great view of the interior. And of course, this is just basically a smaller version of its big brother that you've probably seen out there as well. And I think that was called the Tower 900 or something, wasn't it? So what we've got here is not a particularly small Mini-ITX case, it has to be said. So Mini-ITX motherboard here and Tower 100 here is obviously pretty big for a Mini-ITX case. For example, this is the Cooler Master NR200p. So as you can see, a much smaller case, whichever way you look at it. So much shallower. Actually, it is a bit longer, but obviously nowhere near as high. So that's the NR200p if you were looking at maybe comparing the two. And also another one of my favorites, the Nzxt H1. So just moving that to get a better perspective here. And yeah, Nzxt H1, smaller in every single dimension, obviously a lot more expensive, but it does come with a lot more kit. It comes with an integrated power supply, and not integrated, that's the wrong word, just an SFX power supply, and also a 140mm all-in-one liquid cooler, but obviously a much smaller chassis. So it's less high, it's not as wide, and it's not as deep either. So that's the Nzxt H1 compared with the Tower 100. And finally then, if I can actually squeeze through here, is the new Phanteks Shift 2. So the Shift 2 is actually slightly higher than the Tower 100, and again, we're looking at a much wider chassis in the H100, and also I think, is it deeper? I have to see. I think I'll actually have to put it up on top here to actually see who actually wins on this. And I think the winner is winner is Thermaltake. The Phanteks is actually slightly deeper. So that's how the Tower 100 compares to a bunch of other Mini-ITX cases. Let me just get rid of this one. Boom. There we go. So yeah, it's a very interesting chassis. It's obviously absolutely massive for a Mini-ITX case, really. It can't really be considered small form factor. And yeah, it's just very large. But what I'm hoping is that it's going to be easy to work with, for one. However, I can't really say I'm hoping for it to be to offer excellent cooling credentials, because I already know for a fact, and if you've looked at the specifications, that Thermaltake only lists single 120mm radiator capacity in here for an all-in-one liquid cooler. However, I'm hoping that I might be able to squeeze a bit more in than that, so you'll have to carry on watching to find out if that's the case, whether or not we can actually fit two radiators in here instead of just one. Storage wise is pretty good. You've got a couple of SSD mounts down there, and there's a bracket around the back here where you can fit a couple of hard disks or more SSDs. And power supplies, we'll have a look at that in a minute as well. We've got an ATX mount in here, so there's no strict thing about going for SFX, which obviously a lot of other cases, smaller cases especially, will limit you to. So front panel up here, you've got power reset, 2 USB 3 and 1 Type-C USB port, and we'll take a look in a minute inside the box as to whether that is full fat USB Type-C or whether or not you have to plug it into your USB 3 cable header on your motherboard and not a full fat Type-C header. So that's everything I think I want to say for it for now. We're going to do a full build inside the PC, inside the case, and actually have a look at some cooling and see which motherboards can we fit inside. Can we actually fit the Mini-ITX Crosshair 8 Impact? Thermaltake doesn't list Mini-ITX as being compatible, so I want to try that out as well. And then we'll come to some conclusions at the end. So for now, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications as well. They will let you know when I upload a new video, and I've got lots more crazy stuff coming up. And don't forget to check out my previous videos as well if you like Mini-ITX or graphics cards or processors or a whole bunch of other things. I've reviewed a load of cool stuff and do some regular modding and water cooling and customization here, as well as overclocking. So do check out my other videos, and let's crack on with the investigation. Despite its price tag, the Tower 100 impressively includes a Type-C USB port, so you will need a Type-C USB header on your motherboard to actually get that working. Okay, so here we are then with the Tower 100 on the desk, and as you can see already that there's a lot better airflow around the rear of the case here. Instead of just a flat closed off panel, we now have a large fan vent here. And what I'll do is just remove this panel now, and as you can see, there is a 120mm fan included, and there is also space there, as you can see, for a 140mm fan as well. So standard 3-pin fan there, and there's no PWM control on that fan that's included in the box. So obviously, first question is how much cooling can you actually fit into this case? The whole idea about having a big Mini-ITX case like this one is to fit potentially lots of air cooling, very large air coolers in there, or lots of water cooling. But as far as water cooling goes, there's really not many options here. So one option would be potentially to fit a slim fan from Noctua or AlphaCool, or those kind of people that do 15mm thick fans, as well as a super slim radiator such as the TX series from XSPC, and you could probably fit a radiator and the fan on that back panel. I will actually investigate that in a minute on the video. And other than that, the only other fan mount you've got here is, if I just move the case into view, the only other fan mount you've got is, let me just get these poppers the right way around. Nearly there, there we go. So the only other fan you've got is in the roof, another 120mm fan, and that is the only place that Thermaltake actually says that you can install a all-in-one liquid cooler, which is obviously through in the main section and exhausting out the roof by default. Now, in such a massive case, that is pretty disappointing, really. So what the Tower H100 actually is more of a showcase. It's something that is going to be relatively easy to work with because of its size, and you've obviously got some fantastic views of the interior through all the glass panels. So as you can see, great view of pretty much everything. The graphics card is mounted in the side down here, and the motherboard in the back, which we'll have a look at in a minute. But in general, yeah, it's just kind of one of those typical Thermaltake cases that sort of takes an idea and kind of runs with it. In the past, it's been relatively successful with that. I mean, I like other Mini-ITX cases that this company has done. Not least of all, other showcases such as the Core series, the Core P1, for example, Mini-ITX like this one, but was a little bit more compact. And Thermaltake has also done very small cubes in the past, so it is capable of making some small cases. We've also seen some very, very large Mini-ITX cases from them as well. So let's tear down the case a bit more and have a look at the inside. Right, so now I've actually figured out how to actually get into this thing. Yeah, it's really weird, sort of multi-faceted construction here. So I've taken these panels off. They just unscrew from beneath with 3 thumb screws, and yeah, it's kind of weird. I was sort of expecting these panels to just kind of pop off with magnets. That would have been the most logical thing, but what you actually have to do is to take the entire roof section off, and it's not even that logical up here either. You've got like 4 just standard 632 screws, and then you've got a single screw over in this corner, which I found I had to dislodge as well. And then of course you've got you just lift off the whole front panel sort of assembly like that, or the whole front panel section. Actual front panel ports are left behind, and then you can slide out the panels like so. So it's all pretty well put together, as you'd expect from Thermaltake. They usually don't make flimsy products. It's usually, you know, pretty high grade steel. They're very solid, and looks like it'll be a relatively easy case to work with as well. Once you eventually get all these panels off, that is. So yeah, another one coming off there, just making like a massive stack of them over the other side now. And there we go. So it's basically a shell onto which a whole bunch of panels actually secure. So let's take a look at the USB 3. So we've got a USB Type C port up there, and let's see if that is a full fat USB 3 or whether it's something else. I believe it might be something else, but we will have to wait and see. Should have actually checked this to start with. No, it is actually full fat. It is actually full fat USB Type C, so that's great to see on such an affordable case as this, that you're getting a full fat Type C USB port. And you also get power reset, hard power and hard drive LEDs, audio outputs, and 2 USB ports as well. So if you are looking to use this as an everyday case, it's a pretty good one to choose. So in terms of the interior then, as you can see, if I just flip up the case, the motherboard actually sits at the back. I'll just grab my motherboard over here, and so this is just an Asus X4 70i ROG Strix gaming board. So I'm just going to put this in over the back, and that is pretty much how it sits there. So the I/O panel actually faces upwards in the case, and you access the ports by sort of lifting off the roof section, and that's going to be a bit tricky. But if you look round the rear of the case, I'll just pop this large panel back on here, and there we go. So you've obviously got those 2 holes at the rear for your cables and that kind of stuff to come out of. So it would just be a case of constructing the entire case as you build your PC. It's nothing that we're particularly strangers to, in terms, especially with Mini-ITX cases. Loads of Mini-ITX cases do this, in particular those from Silverstone and Phanteks, like the Phanteks Shift and the Shift 2. They do a very similar thing, and except it's kind of at the bottom of the case kind of thing. And yeah, so it's nothing too tricky to get used to in there. And the graphics card then, probably easier if I actually flip the case on its roof to show you this. As you can see down there, the 2 PCI Express or PCI expansion slots are actually located there. So you've got space for I think at least a triple slot graphics card in the side panel there, and the graphics card obviously sitting vertically, and it's offset by about 1 inch away from the side window. So if I just flip that around again, and yeah, the graphics card will basically sit in here and go. You've got free reign of the entire case, so length certainly won't be an issue, but the depth of your graphics card will be in terms of cooling, because there's pretty much, well, let's get that panel back on again and we can actually see what's actually happening before we get the hardware in. It's going to be pretty obvious, I think. So that is how the panel sits, pretty easily slots into place. And so what you've got is the panel here. So there's a little bit of room, a little bit of airflow or vented space for your graphics card there. Obviously it's going to be sitting about here, especially some of the large ones. So probably about 1/3 of the graphics card's airflow is going to be hindered, I think, just in terms of the fans basically sitting right up against that side window. If you have a particularly wide card, I'll fit a couple of cards in a minute just so you can see the difference. And if you have a wide card that sort of stretches all the way across, then obviously up to half of that that fan is going to be partially blocked by the side panel there. Okay, so as a tester then with some of the hardware, I thought it'd be fun to see if I could fit the mighty Crosshair 8 impact in here from ASUS, and you can indeed. So while Thermaltake specifications don't list Mini-ITX as being compatible with this case, it is indeed. It fits absolutely fine. Even with the backplate on the Zotac card, which I haven't actually tested before. So pretty bit of a squeeze up against that that massive I/O heatsink there, but it does actually fit. And if we just come around here, you can see the kind of space that you're looking at with a fairly sizable graphics card like the Zotac ITX 3070 Holoblack, which I'm using here. It's a pretty monstrous graphics card, but it fits with plenty of space to spare down the bottom. As you can see, there's a good few inches there down the bottom. And yeah, let's continue with the build. Okay, so I just wanted to see if we can actually fit a second radiator into this case. So Thermaltake actually only says that you can fit one all-in-one liquid cooler in here. Well, as far as all-in-one liquid coolers go, that's probably true. But in terms of custom liquid cooling, well, I've got an XSPC TX120 here. As you can see, it's one of their super slim 120mm radiators. And also a 15mm thick Noctua NF A12 15 fan, and super slim setup, as you can see, although the fittings might spoil your day there, but we'll see in a second. If you actually offer up the radiator in the case, that is just about clearing, I think. I think if you avoid that sort of metal flange there, or maybe mount the radiator on its side, obviously the impact that I'm using here, not impact, impact, Crosshair 8 impact, forgot which board I was using for a sec. That does have a backplate, so the radiator can actually rest upon there, and I'm pretty sure that does actually clear it, actually. So let me just fix this to the rear panel, and we will take a look. Okay, so the moment of truth. Now this is very rough. It's just the, I wouldn't even maybe have it this way round. It's just to see if you can fit a fan and a radiator plus a fitting maybe in between the rear of the motherboard and the motherboard tray and this side panel. So radiator attached directly to the side panel here. May or may not be the way you want to go. But let's just see if it actually fits, and if Thermaltake have actually been selling themselves short in terms of the radiator compatibility. And I had to say, I think we're onto a winner. So that's 2 screws secured. In fact, I can even feel that there's no force coming back at me. There's nothing actually being stopping me doing that. So yeah, you can actually fit 2 radiators in here if you use the right components. I will put links to all those parts in the description below, so you can pick them out if you want to try a double radiator water-cooled build in this case. And you probably can't see this on the video because it's really dark in there, but there is a fitting just there. I'm able to rotate it a little bit. You might need some trimming out of the motherboard tray, or putting it into a slightly different position. Maybe just flipping the radiator around just to get another fitting on the end of that, because it's a double rotary fitting. And yeah, that should allow you to get a fitting on the end and to get some tubing in there. So hardline rigid tubing, it would be an absolute mission, but flexible tubing, yeah, sure. I think we can safely say that you can fit 2 radiators in there. So carrying on with the build then, and I've got a Samsung 870 QVO here, and SSD, and just to emphasize where you can actually mount the SSDs in this case. So you've got one mount there, another mount there, and if you use the rear panel, so this is the panel that I've actually taken off to do all that water cooling stuff with. There are a whole bunch of fittings on here. They're labeled on the other side, so you can actually fit SSDs kind of all over the place, really. There's loads of different mounts. There's one there, another one over there, and you can also fit fans into this mount as well. So lots of kind of uses for this one. And yeah, so that's where you mount your SSDs. Okay, let's look at some thermal numbers now then, and my test system includes a GeForce GTX 1660 with its fan speed locked at 60% to ensure consistent results, and also a Noctua low profile cooler with a Core i7 8700K underneath, with that fan speed also locked at full speed. So to load the CPU and graphics card, I run a loops benchmark of the Metro Exodus benchmark with Prime 95's smallest FFT test running at the same time. So absolute worst case scenario here then. And the CPU temperature in the Thermaltake Tower 100 reached a peak of 78 degrees C versus 81 degrees C in the Phanteks Shift 2. So a reasonable effort from Thermaltake here. Moving on to the GPU temperature, it's interesting to see that the Tower 100 actually performed pretty well. That vent in the side panel and the distance of the graphics card from that side panel making a massive difference compared to this Phanteks Shift 2, which reached all the way up to 77 degrees C on the GPU temperature versus just 62 degrees C for the Thermaltake Tower 100. However, removing the side panel on the Thermaltake Tower 100 does show that that glass panel is having a small detrimental impact on the GPU thermals because they fell a further 3 degrees C with the side panel removed. So what do we make of the Tower 100 then from Thermaltake? Well, I think for the price, it's actually quite reasonable. If you like the look of it, and in some strange way I do. I'm not entirely sure why, but I think it's not trying to copy another case other than its big brother. It's not really copying anybody else's case because I can't really think of a case that looks like this at all. Certainly not with glass panels. And it's got a very, very different layout to a lot of other motherboards. I like the view that it has inside. It's almost like looking at kind of some sort of hilltop mansion on Malibu or something, you know, with these kind of panoramic glass panels around here. It's relatively easy to work with. I would say it's not the easiest to actually get inside. Once you're inside, you've got plenty of space to work with, but actually getting inside is a complete pain because you've got 5 screws to deal with in the roof to actually get that off, as well as popping off the lid here, which I did find it can be a bit stiff and tricky to actually deal with, but yeah, it's not too tricky now once you get the hang of it. But it's, yeah, there's lots of things to say about it. I think it's very versatile in terms of the hardware that you can fit inside, especially when it comes to your graphics card. There are no real limitations there, other than I really wouldn't push it more than a 2-slot card, because the deeper your graphics card, the closer to that side panel your graphics card will be. And as you can already see here, that half of the graphics card that I've got there, I've got the Zotac RTX 3070 Hollow Black in there, and half of that graphics card is basically blocked by the glass panel. But it's nice to see that Thermaltake has thought about that to some extent. You do have the large mesh down the side here, so your graphics card will be able to breathe somewhat. In terms of cooling performance, it's reasonable, I think. You've obviously got a massive internal chassis in there, or amount of air in there, so there's always going to be good ventilation with all these mesh panels, and obviously a large volume of air to heat up in the first place. And with a all-in-one liquid cooler possibility, as well as some custom liquid cooling if you decide to follow up on my discovery there. You can actually fit in a second radiator in the back panel. The world is your oyster with this case. So it's maybe not as flashy or as sleek as some of the other Mini-ITX cases out there, but for just $100, £89 here in the UK, I think Thermaltake's done a pretty good job. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for Thermaltake for sending over the sample, and I'll see you soon.